Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
Moonshiners of the Apocalypse was a Kickstarter game that had me at the title of the game. The artwork is fantastic, and everything that I saw about it added up to something that I at least wanted to look at and play with. And then I played it. And this is one of the worst games I've ever played, but let me explain why. From the component issues that the game has had, the drunkard minis that they have, so you can't use them. They don't match up. You must use the standees in this game for the drunkards because all the drunkards for some reason look the same, but you need to look different for the game purposes. So there's no things like that don't add up. The rulebook was okay. I felt like some people online gave it a little bit harder of a time. I was able to play the game just fine. Although, I mean, there were some issues with the rules in general. Not reading them, not knowing how to play, but just in general. And one of the biggest head scratchers of this game is the fact of doing all this trading back and forth of goods. It doesn't really matter because at the end of the game, you can trade it all in anyway. So there really isn't any reason to resource manage during the game. It's just generate as much resources as you can. The fights are done kind of dumbly. You just roll this dice, and it's kind of funny at first, but it doesn't really add up to anything. Sadly to say, this is probably a game you just need to overlook. I think if you find the humor and the theme and the artwork and kind of what you see on the ground level of it, I think you're going to need to kind of have that willpower because this is a terrible game. It lacks any real decisions. The movement around the board, since you can move anywhere on the outside, you can pretty much reach anywhere on the board you want. So the positioning of the tiles really doesn't matter. The humor's funny. I like what they're going for here. It just feels like everything that they tried to do, maybe they didn't play test it enough. Maybe people didn't give them honest feedback. Maybe they play tested with the same people and they were being kind to them or didn't get the feedback that maybe like, you're not going to get the same feedback from 5 people as you will 50 people, let's say. I don't know what happened here. It seems like they have a basis of a good game. It feels like they've played good games, but it just doesn't feel like this game was played enough to, it just doesn't work. The game doesn't work. And when the game doesn't work, that tells me somebody didn't play it enough, right? It's not even that you would say, hey, this is a bad game or this game isn't fun. But when a game legitimately doesn't work together and you get to the end of it and you're like, that whole thing was pointless, then it feels like people didn't play it. And that's what this game feels like. So for me, it's an absolute purge when I would tell you to skip. Don't get tripped up by the art or the humor. Skip this one, avoid it like the plague. Here's Moonshiners of the Apocalypse. You can see a beautiful artwork here on the box. The artwork is something that really attracted me to this game. You're going to get some stickers in here, and then you're going to get a rule book, which we'll look at in a different section. Here is the game board, which I'll pull out in a few minutes. And you can see here from the players that you're just going to have some wonderful artwork. Now, these are not super thick, but they just kind of sit on the board and track your items. And you can see each of the characters will have a different little blurb up here. And there's definitely a good mix here. And the artwork is just great. I really, really like the artwork in this game quite a bit. And here's our final character. Now, you're going to have a whole bunch of cubes, which are going to be the survivors with these little cheapy things. And you're going to get that. You can see here that some of the colors don't actually match that well. The corn, for some reason, looks like corn. And the other stuff doesn't really look like. I guess that's gold a little bit, maybe. Lots of cubes in here. Now, you're going to have a balloon, which will be your round tracker. And you're going to have a bunch of standees. Once again, this is going to come with standees and miniatures. And they're all going to be there's the drunkards that come out. All this is kind of played for laughs, if you will. You are going to have some custom dice that will be in here. They're all 6-sided, but they are custom on all the sides. And you're going to have a nice trusty 20-sided die in there. Now, the cards you have are fine. You can see these little people that come out, the bored housewife, kind-hearted loan shark. I really do like the art in this game. That will be utilized. And then you're going to see the tiles that will be in here. You can see the tiles. I actually like them quite a bit. I like the artwork on this. You can see it's very easy to put your people on there and your little houses that you'll have. And as you build up, I think all the icons are very easy to see. They're going to have some minis in here, and I'll kind of go through all of these, maybe a couple at a time for the different characters that you're utilizing. Mine have been all painted up. Yours will not come painted up, but you're free to do with them as you see fit. You can see they look pretty darn good here. And everything is kind of played for that humorous laugh kind of thing that you're going for. And these are going to be the player people that you're going to have. Now all these drunkards are going to be the same. You can see here they have their swill when they come out. So this makes them kind of unusable, if you will, because each of the drunkards, you know, are going to have different people that might come out to represent them. But with the miniatures, are all going to be the same. So that can be a little tricky there. That I kind of prefer the standees almost in these than I do the miniatures, to be honest. So here is the game board. You can see all set up. You have a place for all of your cards. You're going to have a round tracker down here and places for all the hexes. I do like the colors used. I think when you put the hexes on them, I think they fit really well. I think everything fits in really nicely. Now there are some problems with the components. You got some color matching issues that you're going to have here. You're going to have some of these upgraded components that aren't very useful, and I do like the art. I do like these in that respect. I think the components are kind of the least of the worries here, although I think during the Kickstarter there were quite a few complaints about what was given and maybe not a lot of thought. It kind of felt like that maybe some of the people who designed the game were not in contact with the people who were designing the components. That was kind of bizarre in that respect. Your round tracker that you're going to have will kind of sit down through here and move. So it doesn't exactly fit on the spot. You know, it gets kind of big here. Maybe you can go sideways with it, but there were some component issues. Here's a rulebook for Moonshiners. I didn't have a huge problem with it. I do really like the artwork in this game. Some of the miniatures don't match up with what you're getting. You don't have any of these like little circular things in here. It's not perfect. The drunkard standees and the miniatures are all right. You're going to have setup over here and then gameplay of kind of what you're doing, and then a breakdown of the actions that you're going to have in the game. It's broken up into a day phase, and here's the night phase. This is kind of more like a cleanup, like you're getting more drunkards out and you're producing. And then game end and victories. There are some solo rules in the back. We're not going to go over those for this, and a glossary of what things are. I found the rulebook to be okay. There were some little bitty problems I had with going through, but overall I'd give it probably a C+ or a B-. Not a bad rulebook. So I'm going to do a little bit of a small overview of the game here. I'm not going to go over every single rule. So when the game starts, you're going to pick one of your people here, and you're going to pick whoever you want. And each person will have these actions that you can do. And this is how many actions you can do like in a round. So there's going to be 7 rounds in the game. Whoever has the most gold at the end of the 7 rounds will be the winner. And this will track your stamina and how drunk you are. And when they meet, you're going to have some issues that you'll have. So you just pick one of these characters, and this will be who you're moving around the board. So when you're on the board, you're going to have your little miniature, and you can always move around anywhere on the outside. Now, here in the middle is going to be Uncle Hardy. That's going to be a very important space that we'll have, but otherwise, you can move anywhere that you want. This is a free action that you can do. Now, the way it's going to work is you're going to get 2 actions. Everybody else is going to go, and you're going to get 2 more per day, and that will be during the day phase, and then you'll move into the night phase. But just kind of keep it moving. The movement is free, which is really silly because it just means that the board doesn't really mean a whole much because you can just kind of move wherever you want to move. So the first kind of action you can do is explore, which is going to take a relic, and then you'll take one of these buildings out, and you'll put it on the space that you're on the board, and that's kind of how that building will appear there. And you know, as the game progresses, there'll be different buildings all over the board that will start populating out through here, and there'll be these boards which will activate during the night phase of the game. You're also going to scavenge during an action. That's one of your possible actions. So you roll these dice, and based on what you roll will be what you get, either relics or little scraps of metal that you'll have. So that's one action to take. Roll the dice, and then you get whatever is listed on the dice. Now, if you ever make it to Uncle Harding's in here, you can start trading. and he'll allow you to take 8 scraps and turn it into gold, 4 scraps into moonshine, or you can do 2 scraps and get corn. So you can always go to the center and kind of trade those useless scraps and be able to get gold, moonshine, or corn. And you'll be able to do that if you get to the center here with Uncle Harding. So if you have one of these buildings out, what you're able to do is give up scrap, and you'll be able to build on this building for 4 scrap. Now you can always, if you want to save an action or go back on another action and upgrade for 4 more, you can do the second one, and each one's going to give you something a little bit different. This one will give you a survivor and a survivor in corn, etc. And that will all occur during the night phase based on your buildings. All of your buildings will be able to produce, but you can construct each level of it for 4 scrap. You can also, if there's any drunkards out, you can go to that spot and you can have a fight with the drunkard, and then you'll roll the dice, and reds are success and greens are misses. And, you know, this is something that wasn't described in the book or the components, but these little numbers will dictate the fighting. And it was really confusing because it was nowhere described in the rules or rule book how this works. So these dice are not going to be the best uses, but once you kind of learn how they work, it'll make a little bit more sense. So during the night phase, the drunkards will move, then you'll add some more to the board, and then any of these buildings will produce goodies that you'll be able to utilize, and you'll do that for 7 rounds as you're moving around the board, fighting these drunkards, getting cards and resources, and at the end of the game, you will turn them all in for gold. Whoever has the most gold is going to be the winner of the game. Who should buy this game? No one. Simply no one.